Right, so that sets the stage for what we believe could be an enriching 2 hours, where we'll take you through a bunch of 3 hours, where we will take you through a series of, as I said, customer experiences, partner insights, our own designs in terms of how some of the Instahiring components can be built grounds up from in many of the companies. To start off the entire conversation, I would like to invite Ashish Sahu from Microsoft. Microsoft is a partner for us in this program, and Ashish is going to take us through one of the elements of Instahiring, which is use of chatbots in hiring. As you can, we might have seen the early slides as well, chatbots impact the automation part of the process. There is an also, therefore, candidates cannot connect up with companies and talk to recruiters in an automated way. Chatbots kind of does that in an effective kind of a way. So over to Ashish.
Let me start, with this personal experience that I had. So today, 13 years ago, I was hired in Microsoft, and the process started, in the first week of November in the previous year, and there were only just 5 interactions, that I had, with HR, technology, and other parts of, the company. Do you think that's an ideal experience, that you can have today? 3 months of, almost 3 months of hiring time, and then the ability to basically, have the candidate go through, the processes. Not right. I mean, we saw the numbers that we, we talked about, in the Generation Z. They have 8 seconds of attention span, right? So that makes it, really difficult for you to, as a recruiter to, go through the process. And what actually, made me go through the process, was the recruiter, right? She was there, to basically give me the information, that I needed, to give me the status of, the information, the process that's, going through. Why did I not get the calls, when it was scheduled to be there, and things like that, So that's what, actually made it, the process, it actually, made difference. And I was able to go through the process, and I got hired into Microsoft, and let me tell you, that it's the most fulfilling job, that I've had in my career. And I'm just talking about, 13 years I've spent in Microsoft, right? I had jobs, earlier also. Now, the technology definitely can, play a great role in, smoothing out that experience, right? And, that's what, you will actually see that how the Instahire does it for you. And we are going to talk about, the bots in the context of recruitment, right? The process that you're looking at, in the screen is a typical process. You are all aware of these processes. You search for the candidates, you do the screening, then, comes the selection process, and then you have, the onboarding process, right? And depending upon the job that you're talking about, the kind of profile you're looking at, one or the other process is going to take long. It's bound to take long, because there's no short of candidacy, but the skills, can be rare at times, right? So you have to, basically do either searching or the screening or the acquisitions, part much more thoroughly and in much more, deeper sense, right? So that's where the AI transformation comes in picture. We've all heard about this term called digital transformation, right? It's there. And with technology, and especially, the computing becoming, ubiquitous in use, it's hard to differentiate, companies, saying, that this is a software company and this is not. The software is practically there in every company, right? So why don't we use this, aspect of the company in your job actually? I'm a technology professional, I don't do recruiting, right? I look at the technology side of it. But then you can definitely benefit, from this revolution that is coming in, right? So these are the 3, tenets of the AI transformation. We have digital agents that, you can expose as, you can actually, you might have experienced them, as the chatbots in the applications that you use, day in and day out in your offices, on your phones, on your laptops. Then we have the intelligent applications. So these are the applications that are there today, and they can be made intelligent by infusing things like artificial intelligence, machine learning, knowledge mining, and those technologies. And then obviously we can also integrate them inside the business processes, so that the technology can assist the candidates as well as the recruiters at every step of the way. Right. These are some numbers that we have found. It is there they're online. You can also find them if you do the research actually. So by 2025, the 95% of the interactions are going to be with the bots. where the human intervention is going to be minimal. And why do we say that? Why is it, why do you think that is going to be possible? Because the number of opportunities, because of the number of, the candidates and various other factors, people are, going to be, asking questions a lot. And, you can't really have a human answering all those questions, coming from, number of candidates, It would be an ideal scenario, where we have just 10 candidates for a given job, so that we can easily, go through the process, that really happens, right? There are a bunch of candidates, there are a bunch of, things that you need to do, the searching, the screening, and, the selection process, right? And then the intelligent apps. So, it is already there today, right? You will see these, capabilities in one or the other way. It starts, from booking a cab. When you book a cab, to go to a place, right? There's AI, there's machine learning that is happening in the background, right? So it's already there, and this number is only going to, increase. So even the applications that today are classic, non-AI applications are going to have these features, and you are actually going to experience them. And how will you know that, the application is being intelligent? Because, it is going to improve your existing experience. You will see how, that process used to be there in the past and how it is, behaving today. So you are actually, going to know, there's a bit of AI which is, in the play there, right? And with that, obviously I work for Microsoft, right? So it can't go, talking about things about, that we provide, the talent acquisitions companies to, make use of. So the services that we have, the first of all, when we talk about bots, obviously, right? So we need to have a platform, that allows you to create bots. So that's called bot framework. Then we have cognitive services, right? So as the term indicates, the cognition is the ability to basically, make sense of, the inputs that you, get from your senses, right? You hear things, you see things, right? So these cognitive services make it possible for your applications, for existing applications to make sense of, the data that is coming in. The data can be voice, the data can be, just a text message or an email, or, probably a video call as well, right? And you will see, that the Talvi actually makes a good use of these cognitive services. You have video screening, you have sentiment analysis, you have, the capability to convert speech to text, and, do the analysis on top of it, so that, as recruiters, your majority of pain points, are, get rid of using these technologies. And then obviously, there are services, that allow the technology people to do the machine learning stuff in the cloud at various scale. There are tools, that do it completely in the cloud. There are tools, that allow them to do it, offline on their laptops, in their offices, right? So these are, some of the scenarios that you have in the recruitment. So anytime access for the candidates as well as the recruiters, right? But, we are talking about recruitment, and recruitment, is, kind of not there without the candidate. So we talked about, the attention span of the Generation Z candidates, right? And they expect the information to be there. We all document frequently, ask questions on websites, right? But do we ourselves, go through the, all of the questions that are documented there? We don't. We just want to be able to ask this question to someone, something, an entity, and get the answer back, right? And that we want to be able to do, at any given point of time. I mean, let's take, a banking scenario, right? I mean, you place a call to the banks, if you do that during the day, you're bound to have, a longer hold time, right? But if you do that same thing, say after 10 o'clock in the night, it happens quickly. And I do most of my phone banking, during the night just because of that factor, right? So that's what, the chatbots can enable for your recruitment process. And then we have the insights from the interaction. So what are these? We probably get a phone call, we'll probably get an email, or, if we have a chat interface built in, for your recruitment process, you'll probably get, this chat messages, from the candidates, right? How do you make sense of it, right? So that's where, capabilities like natural language processing, comes in picture. So we can know, your bots can ask questions like, that what's your name, what's your experience, what's your job profile, right? And, the candidates are actually, open to answer, the questions in any way they please. And the technology makes sense, can make sense, from that input, so that, it can go into your database and can store the information in a way that another technology component can understand and give you the information back. For instance, you do a recruitment campaign, people are reaching out to you on Twitter. The Twitter bot can actually parse the information coming from, look at their social feeds, look at their LinkedIn profile, get the information about what their experiences are, how many years of experience do they have, are they fit for provided we have the machine learning models in place, you can actually also figure out whether or not this candidate is going to be fit for this particular job based on just that information. Now that's the screening part of it, right? We already as the search part by creating a Twitter bot here, right? So that's how it can actually be. And then the technology today is so advanced that the translation now happens in real time, which opens up the avenues where the language shouldn't be a barrier between the recruiter and the candidate. They should be able to use the language that they are most comfortable with, and the system should still be able to make sense of what has been discussed, and allow those people to connect regardless of the language boundary that they might experience during the process. And then obviously we talked about effective screen, so we looked at that how communities like Twitter or LinkedIn blogs or LinkedIn profiles can actually make sense for you, for the system to basically pass through the information and give you a profile that you are actually most interested in. You don't really have to go through all the aspects, look at all their projects and the experience to understand whether or not this guy is going to be fit for this particular profile. Technology, the chatbots can actually do it for you. And then insights from the past. It happens a lot of times, right? I mean, there's a job opening, you go through number of interviews, you screen multiple candidates, and ultimately one or two of them get job, but what if the same position opens up again? What if the team is expanding? You repeat the process, right? Because how do we maintain the history? How do we know that what has been the experience? Was there a number 3 and number 4? And what was the factor that actually did not allow them to take the job the last time? Was it a problem with the candidate? Was it a problem with the position? Were they not fit? Were they short in experience? And how are they now? If the systems, if the technology and the chatbots can enable that information for you, it will be easier for you to basically get that candidate and do the probably a higher level screen and get them hired quickly, right? It wouldn't be certainly 3 months that I experienced in while joining Microsoft. And then the very important aspect of the chatbots is that the people should be able to reach using the medium that they are comfortable, the most comfortable, right? It should not be forcing people to use a certain medium, because people don't like it. If I'm comfortable with WhatsApp, let me use WhatsApp. If it is Skype, let's use Skype, right? So the platform should also be able to give you that experience, where it doesn't matter, what medium the candidate is using, whether it's giving me a call, sending me a text message, or an instant message. I should still be able to connect them, to the same backend system, so that my job as a recruiter, becomes easy, to go through the information and collect the information in one single place, so that I don't miss out, on those important information that is probably coming in, and probably coming in at a time where I'm not available to look at it personally, right? And then obviously, these are the, the metrics that we all aspire for, right? So improve time to hire and employee retention, because after the hiring also, right? I mean, you need to be able to, retain the employee by giving them the job that they like. So that can be done, because you have already, gone through the stages of, doing the search, the screening, the selection. So you know about the employees, a little bit, more than, what a normal system would know. But what about making use of that information that you acquired during the interview process to understand that what is making this employee tick or not tick, and use that information to keep them in the system, retain them, give them the opportunity to grow, right? It's beneficial for everybody involved here. And then the employee satisfaction, because the same information. So one, the onboarding process, right? One thing, that we talked about is cognitive services, right? I mean, once the employee joins or we are doing the onboarding stuff, right? We always ask about these documents. What if, there was a system that could actually make sense of, the documents automatically, so that the people don't really have to go and enter it manually, so that, it gets connected to HRMS and, so on and so forth. So technology can also do that. So these are the aspects, that the chatbots actually make it, really easy for you. And, fortunately, we have Talview here, that is actually, using this technologies for exactly the same purpose. And I'm sure, we are actually going to take a look at, those capabilities today, throughout the day. And yeah, with that, I'm kind of, done with the slides. So yeah, Raja.
Couple of things, right, that stood out very clearly in this entire conversation, in this presentation, was the fact that you could do anything, anytime, anywhere. That kind of syncs very well with the Insta generation that we're talking to, right? The second thing that really stood out for me was the fact that one of the things that we often keep getting accused of, in a sense, is that there is a bit of a recruitment bias. You're biased towards something. The bias part of it completely gets eliminated the moment automation steps in. And the third and the most exciting part of this entire thing is this probably defines the human-bot interaction the most, your human-technology interaction the most. Because if you are writing to a bot or talking to a bot and you're getting a relevant response from the bot, that kind of defines the transition from a human to a bot in that particular process. So all of these three things are very exciting. But before we get there, how many here use bots in the recruitment process? Just a show of hands. Which is great. So we've got a small number. It's always a good beginning. But I think by 2020, when we do TalQuest, I am fairly sure that the number of people who will use bots in their talent acquisition process will significantly increase, and for two reasons. One, this entire thing of if you have a candidate who say, and there is a study to say that 80% of candidates today saw a job posting on a mobile first. Now, when someone sees a job posting on a mobile or whatever, it's in his or her private space. It's not likely to be in front of a computer or whatever. People don't even use so much computers today. It's mostly on mobile in their private time. So they've seen the ad for a company. They like the profile. They have a bunch of questions around that. What do they have to do today? They have to log in, write an email to you saying that, hey, I'm interested, blah, 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 attaches my resume, and these are the 5 questions that I want you to answer, and wait for the recruiter to respond, right? Which is a huge put-off as far as today's generation is concerned. I have a doubt today, I need clarity today, and if you give me the clarity, I'll stay engaged with you and I'll continue the process. So I think that's the thing that bots would completely bring in the process. But before implementing bot, and many of them have not implemented bots, what is the feedback you're getting about the human-bot interaction? Has it reached a stage where humans are comfortable interacting with bots? Has it reached a stage where people are saying that, I would prefer chatting with a human than a bot? What are your initial feedback? Not just recruitment, other spaces that you're involved in.
So chatbots have become really commonplace, right? And what really makes these chat interactions tick is that the quality of interactions that people have with the bots. So when we talk about bots, right, the general impression is that we are talking about chatbots. Chatbots are not limited to chats only, right? They can actually consume information from the links, things, other document sources and all that. And you must have all heard about Google Home and Alexa, right? They are nothing but chatbots at the core. And what really is making them go places is the ability to have a conversation with you, because they understand the context. They have the intelligence to basically go out and get the information from whatever sources are there, that is configured, and give you the information the moment you ask it, right? So it's already there. We have all been using it in one way or the other. So and the quality has really improved a lot, and this experience are simply are just going to be better and better.
Great. And for someone who's trying to implement a chatbot, what are the ground rules that are required? What is the hygiene that you need to set up? What is the foundation that you need to build to be able to start consuming chatbot service? What are the various things that you need to have in place to be able to transition to a chatbot-led interaction with the candidate?
Right. So I think the basic tenet of having a quality bot interaction is the understanding of the process or the domain that you have. Right? You deal with the candidates day in and day out. So you understand what kind of questions are coming in. So your bot, the expectation is that when the candidate is not talking to a recruiter, they are talking to a bot, the quality of interaction has to be the same quality or better. The people will not go for something that is lesser than what they already do. So the basic thing that you need to do is that make your bot intelligent enough to give them the information that they are asking about, instead of falling back to automated response, things like that sorry I didn't understand, or let me get back to you kind of thing. The bot should be intelligent enough to understand what the candidates are asking, should be able to connect with the backend systems and get the necessary information back, then and there. So I think, that's one of the basic qualities, and, then obviously, it should be able to, basically connect and, sound more human, than machine. And I'm not talking about the voice quality, I'm talking about the response quality. It has to, it really doesn't have to, look like an automated response. It has to, be able to basically connect with the candidates. And fortunately, there are, capabilities in the platforms, where you can actually enable, a professional kind of interactions or, a friendly kind of, interaction from the chats, without doing much of, the work yourself. So that, those things are actually already in place.
Right. And one last question, how long do you think it takes for someone who's starting off to have a functional bot in place? Assuming that some of the ground rules are set, the context is set, there's enough information, data available that can be fed into the bot. How long have you seen it taking for some initial implementations to start working?
Okay, so with the technologies that we looked at, things like cognitive services and bot framework and machine learning, it could be as easy as setting it up, in about a week. So it doesn't take much. The information is already there. You just have to design, how the language model works, and just put it in place.
Right.
Those things are already there, and I think Telview is doing a bunch of those things already.
So here's a question from the audience. How are bots breaking the cultural barriers? How are they doing it?
Okay, so the culture barrier, is something that comes from having two people coming in from different backgrounds, right? That's where the culture barrier comes in picture, and how the bots are trying to break that barrier is by personalizing the information for the candidates, and also making it available in a way that the other person is actually is habitual to see it. So that way, we have understanding about, that what the other parties, actually require, from this interaction, and giving the information in a way, that they actually, like to see. So that's, I think, is how the language barrier, I think, being broken.
And I think apart from language barrier, the other thing that really gets broken is culture barrier. The other thing that gets broken is the language barrier.
Yeah.
So with the bot, I mean, the candidate could be virtually from any part of the globe, speaking any language, right? And you could have just one bunch of, let's say, questions and answers ready at the other end in one particular language, and the bot will interact with the candidate in that language. Right? So that's the beauty. Yeah. So you could just imagine the power of how much your talent acquisition team's prowess could expand across the globe if you were to implement bots in the screening process. So thanks Ashish, thanks for an insightful first session. And chatbots are just not the only thing, right? There is also IVR bots, and I spoke about it earlier as well. There's a humongous bunch of use cases across the talent acquisition process that could be accelerated using RAR, and IVR bots are another service. You have a bunch of resumes that you have not used for a long time. You want to figure out whether any of those guys are still interested in a job with you for a profile that you've done. Just push it through the IVR bot service, chatbot service, IVR bot service, and IVR would dial out the candidate phone number automatically, ask a bunch of questions, get the candidate response in 1 or 2, wants to attend, doesn't want to attend, and that straight away sorts your entire database. So IVR bots are in existence today. One of our partners, Recruit, actually does that, and that's something that we bring to our customers as well. So all in all, a good start. As I said, these are quick one-on-one sessions, not necessarily in-depth master classes, which will take a significant amount of time. It gives you a good flavor of what each of those elements in your processes could do, and then once that is done, we can go to the next one.